Hello! I thought I'd do something a little bit different today and do a list of my top 10 favorite fiddle albums. These are the 10 albums that I enjoyed listening to the most or that have influenced me the most in my own playing. And I hope you enjoy the video and I hope you listen to all these albums. So I'm going to start off with number 10, which is Waterbound by the Fretless. This is the Fretless's first album, came out in 2011 or 2012, and they are, for people that don't know, they are a string quartet that play fiddle music. So it's two fiddles, a viola, and a cello, and they play traditional tunes and original tunes, but in a fiddle style, but in a string quartet form. And they are from the West Coast, like me, so they're kind of a local-ish band. They're all kind of living in different places now, but they first came together in the West Coast. You can kind of see that in that album. I think they probably took that on Vancouver Island somewhere. And it's a really great album. This is my favorite of them. They have several of them out, and they're all worth checking out, but this is kind of the first one that they did, and this is kind of my favorite one. It has a couple great songs on it, including the title track, Waterbound, which Ruth Moody was the singer on that, and they have a bunch of Liz Carroll tunes, Jerry Holland tunes, some French Canadian, some original tunes, and it's just overall a really great album, and I think it deserves a bit more attention. Their later albums a lot of people know, but this one was my favorite. Alright, the next one is Head to Head by Shane Cook and Jake Charron. I'm not sure if the camera's I might put a little picture of it over here so you can see it properly. But this is an album from about 10 years ago, 2014, 2015, and Shane Cook and Jake Charron. Shane Cook is one of the best Canadian fiddlers, and Jake Charron is probably one of the top accompanimists for fiddlers around. And they put out this great album. It's just the playing is so top tier. The arrangements, the tune sets, it's kind of become a classic in a lot of fiddlers' repertoires, especially Canadian fiddlers. They played, the sets in the order that these tunes are played on the album, and it's all with all the arrangements and all the licks. So that's when you know an album have really gone into the consciousness of a lot of fiddlers, including myself. I've taken many licks from this and learned all the tunes from the CD, and Shane Cook especially is a great player, and this is probably his best work. And Jake Charron is also part of the East Pointers, which is another very popular band. Alright, the next one is Mandorla. This is Pierre Schryer and Adam Dobres. And Pierre is a fiddler originally from Ontario, but now he's living on Gabriel Island, I believe, or the sort of the West Coast as well. And this album came out, I think, about 2019, and it's a really solid album. I love the tune selection in them. There's a lot of interesting. Pierre is very good with genre, so there's some French Canadian, there's Celtic, there's some. Even starts with a sort of a Berber set of sort of like kind of different sounding tunes, but then he throws the clogging into that, and Adam Dobres is a really great guitarist, so really tasteful backup, and just a really good album. One of their sets is Tico Tico, which is one of my favorite versions of that piece, and overall just a really fun album. The next one is Brunet. This is, I think it's Grosse Maison Rouge, so the Big Red House. This is kind of a hard album to get your hands on. He doesn't really seem to advertise it much, but this is, I think, his only solo album. Brunet is probably the best French-Canadian fiddler around, and he's part of the Bottin Souriant and the Vent du Nord and all these Diton Anton, all these French-Canadian groups. Some of them are super groups, so there's a lot of people in the group, but this is kind of my favorite work of his, and this is just a solo album of some traditional French Canadian tunes, a lot of his tunes, and the playing on it is very, very kind of that French Canadian groove, and the tunes are also really kind of interesting mix. So I really enjoyed this album. There's some great fast tunes, there's some great kind of slow airs, and just overall, like a really, probably in terms of French Canadian albums, this would be the one to check out. And I don't know if it's available online. You might be able to find a copy on his website, or maybe it is somewhere, but I'm not able to find it online that easily. So it's maybe a deeper cut, but definitely one worth checking out. The next one is Alasdair Fraser and Natalie Haas, The Highlander's Farewell. This is one of their later albums, or I guess maybe a kind of a mid. They've been going around for 20 years, and they have about 8 or 9 albums. I think this is about the 4th or 5th one. And this is the first kind of one that I listened to. And when I went to a show of theirs for the first time around 2011, this was the one that they were playing music off of, and it is my favorite of theirs. It's just the repertoire of the tunes is just the perfect blend of the sort of Scottish with a bit of his original tunes, and there's some extra players on there, like I think Martin Hayes and Bruce Molsky are on it, and overall, just if you're going to listen to an Alasdair Fraser, Natalie Haas album, this is, I think, the best one that they've done, and overall, one of my favorite Scottish albums of music. His tone is very great, and of course Natalie Haas is a legend in the fiddle community as a cello player. Alright, the next one is Genticorum. This is I can't pronounce that, Bibournoise. But anyway, it's I think it's their 2nd or 3rd album, and this is the one that I picked up when I first saw them. And this is kind of my favorite of theirs. And it's not purely a fiddle album. There are some singing tracks on it, but it is pretty fiddle heavy overall. And the fiddler in there is Pascal Gem, who is another great French Canadian fiddler. And this is, my favorite of them, of their albums. And a lot of great tunes, a lot of cross-tuned pieces, which are really fun to learn. And I learned a lot of these when I was in elementary school and high school. And it was fun to kind of play them, all their arrangements of them. And I haven't played it as much recently, but it is definitely a core album for me. So I recommend you check this one out, and as well as their other albums. They have about probably 4 or 5 other albums. Alright, this might be a hard one to find, but this is Mark Sullivan and Geoff Horrocks. The Mark Sullivan live album, it's kind of known as, and you gotta it's almost like a bootleg copy. It's not a bootleg copy, but it almost feels like it, because people, rave about this album, but it is very hard to find. It's not online. You can't really find it on the usual sources like websites or streaming, but it's just Mark Sullivan and Geoff on piano. And they're just kind of playing a bunch of common Canadian old-time Ottawa Valley tunes, some Celtic tunes, some French Canadian, and it's just recorded live off the floor. They have a small audience listening, and it's a short album. It's only about 35 minutes long, and they just play the tunes. A lot of tunes they fades out at the end, and the playing is just top-notch. Mark is a 3-time Canadian Grandmaster fiddle champion and was one of my instructors, and of course I've learned every single tune on this CD from the CD, and a lot of them are ones that I've added to my repertoire, and it's a really great album, and I wish it would be available somewhere. It should be, but if you ever get your hands on it, Mark Sullivan, Geoff Horrocks live album. Alright, the next one is Martin Hayes, Under the Moon. There's a couple Martin Hayes albums I like. It was between this one and the other one that came out after. I can't walk along the something, but this one I've really kind of studied, and I have a book that had all the tunes transcribed as he played them on this album, and I've basically learned everything on this one as well. If it's a good album as a fiddler, if you learn every single tune that's on every single track. Martin Hayes is a classic Irish fiddler, probably the most well-respected Irish fiddler around, and for good reason. He's a very contemplative player. He likes playing tunes slow. He likes getting into the pearl of the melody. That's kind of he has a kind of a philosophy of tunes about getting to like what the tune means at its deepest level, and often that means stripping away some of the other things that he sees as not as necessary, the speed. He likes playing things slowly as opposed to fast. He maybe doesn't do as many ornaments as some fiddlers would, and he has Dennis Cahill on guitar, or Dennis Cahill, who is kind of a legendary backup guitarist and very kind of minimalist compared to someone like John Doyle, or most guitarists really, but a really lovely album, and this is a great kind of mood album. It's not necessarily one that'll get your toes tapping, but it's one it'll set a mood, and there always is. He always throws in one fast track on every single one of his albums, it seems. So yeah, Martin Hayes, Under the Moon. This is available pretty much everywhere, so I'd recommend this one. Okay, the next one is Dancing Northern Lights by Calvin Vollrath, or really just any Calvin Vollrath album. He has about 80 of them. This is the first one I ever picked up. I don't know if you can see he autographed it the first time I ever met him in 2010, I think it was. And he says, "Michael, good to meet you." So obviously I've known Calvin since then, and we've met many times, but this is kind of my first album of his, and really any Calvin Vollrath album, you're going to get about 20 tracks. He's going to play they're all original. He's going to play each one, 5 times through. He has the spoons, he has the piano playing, and then it'll just be a mix of waltzes and jigs and reels and probably a polka or two, a march maybe, a slow air, and it's just really, really great playing, and he has the setup. Like, he knows how to record a fiddle album, and so really this album, or really any Calvin album, I'd recommend listening to. Just top tier Canadian old time fiddling. And I guess we're at the final album, and this, I haven't been ranking these. It's my top 10 favorite, but this hasn't been like 10 through 9, 8. I haven't been ranking them like that, just so you know. But if I was going to rank one as a number one, it would be Liz Carroll Double Play. And this is Liz Carroll and John Doyle on guitar. And this is an album around 2008 or 9 it came out. And I was in a fiddle camp and was instructed by Liz Carroll for a couple of years. The first year was when this just came out, around, I think it was 2010 or 2011. In terms of Irish fiddling, she's from Chicago, but born to an Irish family. In terms of Irish fiddling, she is the best, in my opinion, that ever was. And the playing on here is her at the top of her abilities. And John Doyle, of course, is in terms of guitar players, he's the number one guy if you want, in terms of Celtic and Irish guitarists. And overall, the album is just a lot of great tunes on it, a lot of her original tunes, and some great stuff. I also got this signed by her way back. I don't know if you probably can't see that, but Double Play. She has a bunch of other albums, they're all great, but this is kind of my favorite, and that is my top 10 favorite fiddle albums. And I hope you find an album or 3 that you can enjoy from my recommendations, and let me know in the comments if you like, what's your favorite fiddle album. Are there any that really stand out to you? And I'd really appreciate any recommendations to that. But all the best.